I think a very fascinating signing that happened is the Donovan Smith signing with the Kansas City Chiefs, who it seems like they're expecting him to be their everyday starter, not just him to come in and be a depth guy. However, they're not paying him too much money, and so being able to do those kind of things definitely is, if he can come in and be at his best, this could be a very good signing because they're not paying him that much. But obviously, if he comes in and plays like he did last year, then it doesn't matter if you're paying him no money, just the bad play will do the damage for the contract. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grades since he's been in the league, you notice that he was actually pretty consistent, not consistently good, but pretty consistent those first 4 years in the league. Grades under 70 each year, but over 60 each season. And then Tampa Bay made the odd move of, despite the fact that he hasn't really been very good, again, that's not a disastrous grade, but certainly not a good one. They still went out and paid him a big chunk of money, and then he's all of a sudden started playing better. And while there is this sort of reputation of he only played better in the Tom Brady era, if you look at the PFF grades, he actually still had a pretty good season in 2019, but clearly his best year was in 2021. So he had seemingly found a rhythm and seemingly was at least a decent player, if not just an outright good tackle, which was kind of a very pleasant surprise that, you pay a player who hasn't shown much and all of a sudden he starts to look like that player you paid him. That almost never works out that way. However, in 2022, it just went off the rails. Really, what's fascinating, though, is that the PFF pass blocking grades weren't disastrous, but the run blocking grades were. Run blocking grades were just a complete mess. And again, 71 pass blocking grade, that's quality, you'll take that, but it's not a superstar level either. But again, for a guy you're not paying much, for a team that doesn't really run the ball, maybe there's some hope in him being, a decent pass blocker for the Kansas City Chiefs. But let's talk about what happened against with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and maybe what we could expect. For one thing, going over here, one of the issues with Donovan Smith is he's just, this is going to be a play one-on-one against Micah Parsons, and listen, one-on-one against Micah Parsons, right? There's no shame in getting beat by Micah Parsons. Especially when, look at this move Parsons is going to pull off. A great spin move. He's able to get up and get to Tom Brady for a sack. You could simply look at that and say, you know what? Hey, it's Micah Parsons. What are you going to do? But at the same time, quality tackles in the league still can block Micah Parsons consistently. The reality is, usually as an offensive lineman, you win most of the time. If you get burned for one sack, that means you had a bad game in a typical game. That's just kind of how it works. So because of that, you do expect still, if you're going up against the best of the best, to not get beat consistently, and he does get beat consistently by great players, meaning usually Tampa Bay had to help him. Wonder was an elite player on the edge. This plays another example, maybe a better example of kind of potentially some of the issues where what's going to happen is going up against Myles Garrett. So again, I'm showing him going up one-on-one against some of the best in the league, right? But here's the thing, is one of the reasons why I think that he had a much better year in 2021 and in 2020 compared to 2022 is that Brady was getting rid of the football quicker in those years. Watch how on this play, you see Garrett going with more of a speed rush move, which sometimes take a little bit longer to get to the quarterback, but are a more effective way of getting to the quarterback. And it seems like Donovan Smith has kind of mastered the art of letting every pressure get there in exactly 2.7 seconds. He's pretty good at not allowing pressures to come early, but if it's a little bit longer, that's where issues arise. Look, Brady holds on to the football, eventually just goes down. Garrett was, he got credit for half a sack on that one. Definitely did some good stuff there, I would say. So these are the kind of things that, that I think Donovan Smith can sometimes struggle with. Going over here, it's not to say that he can't give up immediate pressures as well. The reality is you just don't want to have him in one-on-one situations against great edge rushers. Like for Kansas City, that is something that they don't love to help out their tackles that often. So that is something I'm interested in. As you see, Garrett on this play, again, going to get under that left arm pretty quickly. He gets to Brady, kind of awkwardly brings him down, but hey, a sack is a sack, so good stuff there from Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's really good. Micah Parsons is really good. The reality is, though, it's not like those are the only guys who beat Donovan Smith, and so there are some concerns that you have to have, especially going into a system where obviously Mahomes there's kind of a blessing and a curse with him. The blessing is he's so good at avoiding pressure when it arises. The obvious curse is that he does hold on to the ball a lot longer than someone like Brady does. And if Smith is that day in and day out offensive lineman, who left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, could that give Mahomes some trouble? Sure, it could. Not being able to adjust to it as well, not being able to see what's going on as well, that could be concerning. Here's another concern. Something like this. I don't know how Donovan Smith seemingly did it last year, but it felt like every single time he committed a penalty, it was an absolutely brutal time to commit a penalty. And listen, the guy had 13 penalties last year. I mean, that's far too many to have. And he's always been a big penalty guy. I mean, he is someone who, look, he averages right around double-digit penalties a season. He's a high penalty guy. It is what it is. But it seemed like every single time a big play happened for Tampa Bay, it got called back because holding 76. That just seems to be what happens. This play, you see that, okay, the edge rusher is going to try to bull rush right here, so Donovan Smith holds on, which is allowed. You're allowed to do this. This is not going to be a penalty as long as you remain sort of in a pushing motion, as long as you remain blocking in that direction. You can kind of have your hands grabbed on and holding that way. Holding is really kind of, maybe the better term would be pulling, right? That's kind of almost what would be the better way to phrase it. Holding isn't necessarily illegal. Pulling is. So for Smith, as long as he just stays in front here, he should be fine. Maybe he'll get driven back into Brady, but he should be fine. But watch him get driven back, and then he kind of just, twist a little bit. It looked like the, 75, I think, tried a little bit, but it almost looked like almost intentional by Smith, just trying to avoid Brady getting hit at all cost, which, because of that, caused this play to not count, which was a real devastating blow, because Mike Evans gets wide open, gets this touchdown. I mean, you saw the emotion on his face when he was into the end zone. It's hard to come back after that because of a hold. And, Tampa Bay got blown out in this game, but still, this was kind of one of those moments where it's like, yeah, it just things, when things were going well for Tampa Bay, seemed like this was a part of it. So the holds at key times, especially, are something that are just a real concern with Smith. Like, something like this is another one where what's going to happen is it's, again, going to be a key play in the game. I mean, let's talk about just the situation right now. We're, in the final minute of the game, Tampa Bay trying to pull off a crazy comeback against New Orleans. And watch Donovan Smith. I mean, he almost intentionally holds right there. He got beat right at the line and holds, even though he didn't have to. He had help towards his right. He just didn't realize it. And so he, holds to make sure Brady doesn't get hit. And again, you hold because you get beat, right? The worse you are, the more you hold more frequently. And because of that, he, took a game-winning touchdown off the board. Now, Tampa Bay still came back and won this game, but that was a game-winning touchdown that got taken off the board due to a hold. So there's plenty of positives in Smith's game. There's plenty of negatives in Smith's game. I come from as a Tampa Bay fan, first and foremost, and Smith was a very frustrating player to watch, but I don't know if he's as bad as maybe some of these frustrations might indicate. He definitely at times could be an effective pass blocker and does have a role. The question is, is he going to be able to replace someone like Orlando Brown Jr.? And even though Chiefs fans have found him frustrating in the past, I think they're going to find Smith far more frustrating. But he's also one of those players where, being a mediocre left tackle who holds too much, that's just going to frustrate the hell out of you as a fan base. But it doesn't mean there's no value in him. And for a small contract, I don't really hate it. But that's kind of how I view it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.